Jim Joyce.
Here we
Last
are,
week
man.
last week I started with a formal introduction, but for those who are tuning in, I'm the co-host of the Shot of Digital Health Therapy, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host Jim Joyce. Welcome to this week's episode.
Fantastic. You're getting just meticulously
Produced by Jim Joyce, meticulously produced by Jim Joyce.
exactly,
I,
exactly.
are you? I see palm trees, and you're not in Barcelona,
Nope,
so
nope, not in Barcelona. I feel like everywhere in the world with palm trees is just a good place to be. I think if you have palm trees in your life, it's a better
you
place,
know.
right?
Completely agree. I mean, sunshine, puts smiles on faces, right?
Yeah.
But hey, it's part of it is attitude.
I'm in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I was just telling you about 25 minutes away from the Space Coast. So we're
Oh yeah,
watching at night. We watch Elon and Jeff Bezos and whoever else is up to it, launching spaceships. Do a little karaoke. I check in on my folks that are living here, so that's why
that's
you
nice.
see the
Good.
the lovely chilled out background behind me.
I love it. Visiting family, spending some time, and I've never actually heard that called Space Coast, but makes sense.
Yeah,
Totally makes
absolutely.
sense. Well, speaking of AI, just because Musk, I don't know, and
Right, right.
there's some there's some. I've actually been using the 4.0 quite a bit. I'm pretty impressed on how it keeps track of the context across chats now, and just
Yep.
honestly, it's my sidekick throughout the day for anything from business development to ops to whatever, right? But pretty
How
amazing.
many
But
times do you think you have it open all day and you're using it 10 times a
it's a
day, 12 times a day? Like,
it's a tab. Honestly, I even use it for like prospecting. I use it for honestly, just across the board. Some even questions like I don't even Google anymore. Honestly, like I just kind of it's a
right,
tab and that's it.
right,
So, but that's me. And again, back to kind of AI. So we have
right.
a wonderful guest today, Eli from Regard, who is going to be joining. I'm admitting him in, and I hope he got
Fantastic.
the. I hope Eli got the memo that we're already recording.
As he walks
But
in here.
our friends, and this is a new one for us because we typically know a guest before they join us. Eli, welcome to the shot. This is the craziest podcast you will ever do. Just warning you already. We're live and recording. And I was just kind of introducing you, Eli, just the background on how we sort of got connected. We typically, Jim and I, just kind of sort of directly in our network. We invite somebody who we met, etc. We've never met. You're the first person out of this is episode 140, Jim. That's amazing.
Right. Yep. So pleasure.
Um, Pleasure. And
Yeah,
our
nice to
friends
meet
at
you both too.
12080 Marketing, Rob Cronin and team, Dori, so kind of reached out because they've heard us talk about AI here and there, and who's not talking about AI these days, of course. Yeah, so without further ado, take your time. We got time, Tim Ferriss style sort of thing, but not really because people drop off their attention span. But take us through your journey, personal, professional. We'll
Yeah.
chime in and interrupt and ask questions as we are pretty rude sometimes.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, nice to meet you both, and happy to dive in on this. So yeah, my name is Eli. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Regard. And some background on me: I grew up in the Boston area. I grew up loving computers since I was a kid. Some of my earliest memories were playing SimCity 2000 way back in the 90s, and that translated to learning how to code at age 12, building PCs in high school. Um, so initially, I was very much like tech oriented, not really in the health space, but my grandfather was a physician, so that's always had some impact on me. I was lucky enough to get into MIT for undergrad, and I actually pushed computers and technology away.
And no,
Um,
no hard work involved in getting into MIT, just all luck.
Yeah, just luck, pure
yeah,
luck.
a
Just
little
fell
bit of
into
work,
it.
a little bit of luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But wait, can I
So
can I
I,
before you move on? Actually, you said you started putting computers together. Were you doing this when there was still dial-up?
yeah, I mean, it was
Okay,
transitioning. Like the
okay,
first couple
okay.
of years of high school, it was dial up, and I remember sophomore year, we got DSL, and it was so cool to be able to be online all the time and fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what neighborhood in Boston? Where town?
I grew up in a town called Acton. It's about 45
Okay.
minutes out of there. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. Sorry to interrupt you. So you're
Now
getting
you're getting used to our style here.
No, it's all
You've
good.
got-
It's more interactive. My first job, I was senior year of high school. I was I needed some cash to spend, and true story, I applied to Dunkin' Donuts 3 times in a row, and I got rejected 3 times in a row. And my friend from high school was working at a local like startup, and he said, hey, you know how to code, why don't you come work here? So my first job was, I had to settle for a software engineering job as my first job, getting paid $10 an hour, which at that time was awesome because everyone else, the minimum wage was I think $6 an hour. So I felt
Yeah.
like a
Everything is
baller.
relative. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But you had to pay for your own coffee, but it was probably pretty cheap at that stage.
Yeah. So, my summer going into college, I'm sitting at my desk staring at a screen 8 hours a day. And I'm saying, man, I don't know if this is what I want the rest of my life to be like. Here we are staring at screens all day anyways, so it didn't really matter. But I that kind of pushed me away from the technology side for a bit. And going into college, I had this interest via the influence of my grandfather to explore the health sciences. So I ended up being pre-med, and I actually ended up studying bioengineering instead of computer science.
By luck, of course.
Yeah. And my co-founder, who I didn't know at the time, actually had a very similar path to me. Both of us were bioengineers. Both of us were pre-med. Both of us even took the MCAT. And both of us had experiences shortly after graduating, shadowing physicians, where we said, maybe this isn't for us. So for me personally, I was shadowing physicians.
And what was that? What was that made you say, maybe this isn't for us? Just curious.
So for me, it was, I had this pretty cool volunteer job where at Mass General, where I was able to push the book cart around the wards, and I'd be able to actually go onto the floors and kind of interact with the patients and see how it felt. And I just noticed that a lot of the doctors there didn't seem very happy. And it seemed, I didn't have that calling in my heart of like, this is where I have to be. Like, I must be in this profession.
Right.
And, when you're staring at a 10-year, $300,000 tunnel, and you don't feel excited about it, I despite my parents and my friends saying, go be a doctor, I was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right for me. So thankfully I listened to that voice. And for my co-founder, similar story. He was shadowing doctors, and he said he actually had doctors sit him down and say, do not go into this industry unless you cannot imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
So
isn't that so important though? Like, I don't know, Eugene, like I feel like I'm dating myself to go back, but like when you go and you get that first, or that first job or first kind of professional experience, and you look around and you see people 20 years older than you, 10 years, whatever they are, and you're like, do I want to be that? Like, that's so important. Like, is that what I want? And you might be so enamored by it because it's kind of glamorous in some ways to be a doctor. They're such so revered in society, and they end up making a lot of money in many cases. And obviously, you have this capacity to heal, which is pretty powerful. But that's cool.
Well, and unfortunately, I think many people especially I think in US in the field, go into the profession for the wrong reasons, right?
Yes.
And I've kind of overheard, well, yeah, the only way to make money is to be X, right? Specialist, right? And etc. And I think that's an important piece, because guess what? You're not walking into anything pretty every day, right? Meaning it's a tough job, right?
Yep.
And by the way,
Definitely.
the biomedical, it was biomedical or bioengineering?
Bioengineering. Yeah.
Bioengineering, yeah. I've hired a lot of people over the years from that, either biomedical or bioengineering kind of background, and they've all like coming into this whole digital health tech space. Seems to be a great merger.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, both me and my co-founder didn't know each other yet, had these similar experiences, and I kind of tabled that thought, and I ended up going to grad school at Stanford, where I got back in touch with my
By
roots
luck.
of, yes, by luck. And I kind of got in touch again with, I realized I actually love technology. I took a year off from working and stuff and spent some time at the media lab at MIT. I don't know if either of you have ever been there.
Oh yeah,
I
sure.
visited it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a cool place,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It feels like you're stepping into the future. And I was doing some work with some of the groups there before starting grad school, and I felt that excitement inside of me, like this is so cool. I want to do something like this. So I focused on both management and computer science in grad school, and I knew I wanted to do something in the startup space. I didn't know what exactly. I didn't know if it was going to be health related or just, general tech. And coming out of, as I was wrapping up my master's, I had met my now co-founder through mutual friends, and we bonded over this, both of us having this experience of being biomedical engineering, being pre-med, even taking the MCAT, and then
Right.
saying, okay, like this isn't for us. So we were like, what's going on? Like, why did we both have this experience? And, we're at a point where a lot of our friends who took that path are now in residency or practicing physicians. And we started talking to them and saying, hey, how's life? And
Right.
a lot of them would say, yeah, a lot of them would say, I love being with my patients, but I have so much other crap that I have to do that it almost feels like I barely get to do the thing that I actually love about the job. And we started digging in on that, like what's happening. Because I remember hearing my grandfather talk to his colleagues about and just his life and experience, and he seemed to overall enjoy his job a lot.
Right.
There wasn't this complaining of all this administrative work you had to do, all this note writing you had to do. So we kind of dug in on to try to understand what's happened. Like why did it become like this?
And sorry, your grandfather, did he have his own practice, or was he like what was the scenario?
Like a
Because
local
obviously,
GP or
he
lots
worked
of
at
changes.
he worked at a hospital, so he was part of a hospital.
Yep.
And yeah.
Okay.
So, which is, most physicians these days don't have their own practices. So it was like kind of equal to what it would have been like now. And what we found as we were digging is that we've had this massive transformation over the last couple decades of a small amount of data being available on a paper chart to now an exponentially growing amount of data available on digital charts.
Yep.
And I think it is a good thing. Generally, more data is a good thing if you can use the data.
Sure.
The problem that we identified is that now we have health systems have invested millions and millions of dollars into installing EHRs, and they have invested millions of dollars into collecting data for those EHRs. So now we're sitting on this mountain of data, but the doctors are manually combing through everything. There's no tools, there's no layer that allows them to actually take advantage of all the data that they have access to. I found a stat recently that showed, I believe the study showed that the average physician uses about 3% of the data that they have available to them in the chart.
And how much of their
crazy?
How much of their mental capacity do they use?
Yeah, right.
Well, to try to figure out the tools, right, and where to go and how, and I mean, obviously there was a lot of money went into the ACA. Our last guest, right, Brian, talked a little bit about that, to quote unquote install the EMRs, HRs, and I think the hypothesis was always great, and the data collection, both notes and structured data behind it. I guess the question for you around this is, so what kind of went wrong, right? Or why aren't those technology companies really leveraging the data that they have for the doctors, right? For the better patient care? Or is that the gap you found?
That's the gap we found. And I don't think anything was wrong. I think it's just kind of a mix of things. One, we're just now I think we're now at the point where health systems and leadership in health systems and physicians are saying, okay, like, great, we have all this stuff, but like, we can't actually make use of it all. And we're also, because of laws that were enacted, a couple years ago, or in the Obama era, encouraging the sharing of data, like saying like you cannot, you have to have standardized APIs, and health systems or EMRs are not allowed to block health systems from sharing data.
Right.
We've kind of come to, and the FHIR protocol has opened up. That was a huge thing that has enabled a much more standardized way to transfer data between health systems and vendors and the EHR. So that was, I think, a big unlock that finally happened, that has now enabled an ecosystem for companies like us and others to now sit in between. I see the EMRs like Epic and Cerner as like the operating system. They're like Mac OS or Windows. And just like we don't use all the off-the-shelf available products on our Mac or PC, we'll use Spotify for music, or we'll use Chrome for web browsing. Now entering that era where health systems are saying, okay, maybe Epic or Cerner isn't going to do everything perfectly. We're now in the app ecosystem world. So I think we're just growing into it. So I don't think there was a mistake that was made. It was just, we're finally coming to that time where we can have this ecosystem exist.
Yeah, that infrastructure, like you said, the lack of portability, and then opening up these systems. So, okay, so give us like Regard. So tell us the mission here. What are you trying to get done?
Yeah. So we identify,
and the name itself, by the way, like the name itself, like it's an
inspiration.
I'll go through both of those. So we saw that there is this huge gap that exists where you have this massive amount of data and physicians who are too time constrained to actually make use of it. We call that the clinical insights gap, where there's insights sitting in that data that are not being tapped. And at a very high level, what Regard does is we sit as an AI layer between that raw data in the EMR and the physician. And when a doctor opens up Regard on a new patient, in a matter of seconds, we'll mine the entire chart. Like if there's 10 years of data, we will grab all 10 years, process it, and then pass it through our AI engine, which will then serve up to the physician the diagnoses they may have missed or medication changes that are happening. We tell them that to treat our products almost like an AI resident or med student that's in their pocket, and kind of making sure that they're not missing anything. So it does 80% of the algorithmic work that exists in medicine, and frees the physician up to do more of the human-centric problem-solving side of medicine. And so that's what the product is. And the name comes from, I think you treat things with regard. The things that you treat with regard are the things that you treat with respect and with care and attention. And, I think when a physician's treating patients, they should be treating them with regard. So that's where the name came from.
Cool. I thought it was going to be like you delivered the information and you kind of signed it regards.
There's a few places. There's a few word plays you can use with it. That's part of why I like the name and we picked it. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So where are you at right now? I mean, it sounds like a massive piece of, it sounds like a technology that's not, that is buildable, but obviously integrating it into the world seems like a big challenge. So where are you at?
Yeah, we've been on this journey for a bit, since the very early days, coming out of a garage. We've been at this for a bit over 7 years now, and it does take that long to build these things in healthcare. So now it's been very exciting over the last couple of years. We launched the product commercially about just over 3 years ago, and since we launched it, we've had a very rapid growth. We're now contracted with almost 100 hospitals across about 16, 17 health systems.
Wow.
We're very quickly approaching 1,000 plus physicians on the product, using it, every day on many of their patients. Yeah. So we've, over the last couple of years, really seen this growth. And I think a lot of the part of the reason for that is, of course, there's this wave with AI that's going on, which is helpful. But what's really compelling about our system is that we also deliver a measurable ROI to our clients, because we surface diagnoses that may have been overlooked. Some of those have an impact on the billing for the hospital. And it's not upcoding. We're actually finding, like, the doctor signs off and they make sure that this is real. And we have many stories of where our product has surfaced a medicine or a condition that the doctor wasn't aware of. And they said, holy crap, if I didn't use your product, I would have not treated the patient the way they needed to be treated. And that's what keeps our adoption rate so high, is doctors really feel like it's having a positive impact on their practice and not just another, tool out
in
there.
the box.
The thing that jumps in my, sorry, Eugene, the thing that jumps in my, to me is like the fearlessness of going after recommendation, like, so you're going right after.
Yep.
And that, brings with it all kinds of, fear of implementation, of risk and everything else. So how are you navigating that?
It's a really, really good question. And yeah, I think that's something that we made the conscious decision of like, let's just go right to the heart of it and help them with that,
Right.
with diagnosing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
toughest problem to solve. Let's go.
No, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm a little crazy like that, but now it's paying off. It took us 3 years to get the first product out, but now it's like people are really seeing the impact. And we decided to do that because of the impact it can have. And yeah, initially there was a concern of, are doctors going to say, you're trying to replace me? I don't like this.
Right.
What we found is that, interestingly, the doctors are our biggest fans. They are the most excited about our product because they're drowning already. They're barely, they're just treading water, just barely keeping their heads above it. And they're saying, oh, this is so awesome. You are going to handle the stuff that is kind of the routine, algorithmic side of medicine and free me up to do other work. Not only that, but you're actually going to, this from the ground up, the software has been built with the clinical workflow in mind, not focused on the revenue side, not focused on the administrative side, but 100% always focused on the doctor's workflow. And we tell them that when we train them, like, we have built this product from the ground up for you so that you're going to have a good experience on it. And I think that makes a huge difference. When they see it, they say, oh, this is pretty cool, actually. I like this.
And curious, I mean, you're talking about clinical workflow, right? And, I don't know if you're keeping up with Epic and Particle Health, and we don't need to go too detailed into it. But, again, part of it is when you're depending on, platform businesses, how you guys are handling that. And are you, you mentioned, 100 plus, I think, systems that you're integrating with. Have you prioritized certain things? Like, is it Epic Cerner, or is it more of a long tail? Just curious how you guys are managing that.
Yeah, good question. We currently just partner with Epic and Cerner because we've been focused on inpatient medicine.
Yeah.
Epic and Cerner cover a large majority of those clients. Epic and Cerner have both been very good partners. No issues. I think like I was saying, I think they also realize that they can't hold all the cards, and there's actually benefits to them opening up an ecosystem and saying, hey, like, we're the EMR that has the most vendor apps on it. So they've, I think, also turned a corner in the way they approach these things. So I'm not super concerned about, we're not violating anything. There's no risks there. In the off chance that Epic or Cerner may say, we're booting you off our platform, we can still work directly with the health system and they can still install us. So it's just right now, it's just kind of a nice distribution platform for us. And it's been a very positive partnership.
That's awesome. So right now is one of the questions, and we were kind of interacting with some of your team there, I was saying, or I'd love to get your take on this because I'm wrestling with it, which is, you talked about signal versus noise, I think, in your, so you want to give the doctors a signal versus all the noise of the data coming at it. And then I was kind of putting the question back to you is, with everything happening in AI and all the drama and up and down and talking, robots and, everything that's going on in the world, how are you managing what part of AI to implement, how to think about your own technology stack? Where do you go? Because I can imagine you're still probably quite nimble, so you could explore lots of things.
Yeah. So what we've done is we recognize that, especially when you're going to the heart of what a physician does, the diagnosing piece, you need to build trust. Trust is so, so, so important. So we actually, on purpose, designed our algorithms in-house and to be open box. So a doctor can actually click on, how did Regard diagnose pneumonia? And they can see the steps that our algorithms took to make that decision. And that has been huge in helping build trust. So we recognize that we're coming in and saying, we're here to augment you. We're here to help you be the best version of yourself you can, not to replace things that you do.
Yeah, but maybe just I want to unpack this a little bit. Like so I'm almost thinking more about, just as an innovator, is I get so excited by all the news and all the potential
Gotcha.
companies and I could imagine that if you were building a company today, you would think about revisiting your own tech stack and your own and what models to use and what things to take seriously. And you kind of have to take it seriously because the tech seems to be moving so quickly. So how are you
Gotcha.
kind of managing, like, how do I not like uproot this thing and rewrite the code every week?
And yet 7 years invested in building your platform,
Yeah.
and scaling in the last couple of years, right?
This
It's not
this is
easy
just
to
advice.
just, yeah.
This is advice for me and Eugene. We're looking
Yeah,
forward.
no, it's we're obviously tracking all the progress, and we do have a agreement with OpenAI to allow us to explore the use of their models in a HIPAA compliant way. So we actually have a couple instances where we've been experimenting with GPT-4 to not do diagnosing, because I think it's still just a bit too black box, but to do things like help write a summary or help me write a note back to an insurance company asking for a confirmation of a procedure. That kind of administrative work that needs that data to be fed to it.
Okay.
So I think we're always looking, I'm not tied to what we built in the past and always want to build the best technology. What we have created, which is more timeless, is, an algorithm is only as good as the data that it sits on, right? So what we have done, which I think is the most powerful thing that we've created, is a standardized clinical database. So like no matter what kind of hospital we get it from, whether it's Epic Site 1, Epic Site 2, Cerner Site 1, it all gets massaged into the Regard data format. And that I think is actually really powerful because that allows us to work with this version that we have today, but it also allows us to plug in new versions of algorithms that could be even better when they're fed good, clean, standardized data.
Got it. Yeah. So that timeless, that centralized, sometimes kind of vectorized database, whatever that means, like that you can kind of push it out. Cool.
Exactly.
Wow, Jim, you just impressed me today.
Every day, every day, every day is a new day.
Every day is a new day. And Eli, you also, I think I saw something about Sentara, which is a nonprofit, and I know there's for-profit systems, nonprofit systems. So I guess my question is, do you see the difference working with one versus the other? And then would love to unpack the kind of the Sentara specifically.
Yeah, we don't see too much of a difference between them. Both need to continue to operate successfully. So some of the nonprofits may be more focused on other metrics that they need to report where we can help. But overall, there isn't too much of a difference. But yeah, happy to talk more about the partnership with Sentara. What questions do you have?
You tell us.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. We started at 2 sites with them about almost 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. And the initial take for the product was to help with clinical efficiency and to see what other metrics we could impact. And what was really cool about that partnership is within the first week of going live, there were so many patient safety saves that our product had, where doctors were sending messages back to the CMIO saying, holy crap, this product surfaced this med that I didn't know was turned off, and now I can turn it back on. Or I didn't realize this patient had an atrial fibrillation for their stroke, and now I know. That within a couple weeks of launching, they said to us, we need this everywhere. We're not going to wait 6 months to pilot this. We're going to roll this out. So that was like a very exciting partnership. They've been fantastic partners and really supportive of doing co-development together. They're the client that we're testing some of the GPT-4 systems with. So they've been super great, innovative partner to work with.
Awesome.
Before we go to Jim's kind of famous last question, were there any like major oh shit moments in the 7 years that
there's so many.
I know
Yeah.
there was. It's not a trick question per se, but like something that you honestly just was fun solving, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But
most of the oh shit moments were not necessarily problems that we had to solve, but I guess they were problems at the time. We in the early days, we thought that we were moving towards a pilot with our first potential customer. We were talking to them, they seemed excited, and then kind of at the 11th hour, they said, sorry, we're not going to do it. And we said, oh crap, like we have not been investing in any other sales or marketing. And we're like, okay, we need to go find other partners to work with. And at that time, it was, oh shit, like everything we thought was going to happen just fell out from under us. But what that caused was us to kind of operate more independently, not ever have one dancing partner anymore, and always make sure, like, start reaching out to other people who are interested in what we're doing. So what I found is so many times those oh shit moments, while they are crappy in that time, end up being huge growth moments for the company.
It kickstarted your sales process.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Get
awesome.
a few people on the dance card. That's what.
Yep.
That's right. That's awesome. All right,
Jim, let's go, man.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, like we want you to go back and pretend you were young, but you feel you look very young anyway, or at least you have all your hair still. But if you go back with me, so you're being asked. Did you go? It was Acton High School you went to?
Yep.
Okay, so you are invited to go back as after successfully building up Regard to be this phenomenal application that's servicing doctors all over the world, identifying all kinds of issues, and frankly making doctors happier, their work more fulfilling, doing the things they really enjoy doing. So you've achieved all of that, and you've got and so now you've been asked by Acton High School to come back and speak to the class. As you're speaking to the class, there's a young, potentially pre-med student thinking about going to medical school, but he's also been learning how to code in his spare time, and he just found out that he was lucky enough to have gotten into MIT, in his application. So he sees you and he comes running up to you and he says, listen, I'm going to abandon pre-med, become a biomechanical, and I'm thinking about starting my own company. What's the one piece of advice you would give that younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I would say don't be scared to really follow like your heart on those things. Like you're going to get a lot of advice from people that you trust, people that are important to you, your parents, your close friends, to do X, Y, or Z. But don't be scared to follow the path that you think you want to follow, even if it is more intimidating, or even if you have to disappoint people, or you have to put yourself in a situation where you may not be making money for a little bit. Like, don't be scared to follow that path because it will always pay off in the end.
Taking the hard
Awesome.
path. Thank you very much.
The
And
heart
for
path. I like it.
Millions of listeners and viewers, just subscribe, pass it on, and see you next week.
Thanks, Eli.
Great. Thank you both. That was